Westpac is an Australian bank and financial services provider headquartered in Westpac Place, Sydney. It is one of Australia's Big Four banks and is the second largest bank in New Zealand. In November 2011, Westpac had 12.2 million customers, and Australia's largest branch network with almost 1,200 branches and a network with more than 2,900 ATMs. The bank is Australia's second largest bank by assets. On January 29, 2015, Bank of South Pacific announced that it had entered into an agreement to acquire Westpac's banking operations in Samoa, Cook Islands, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu and Tonga for $125 million Australian dollars. History. Established in Sydney in 1817, the Bank of New South Wales was the first bank in Australia with Edward Smith Hall as its first cashier and secretary. During the 19th and early 20th century, the bank opened branches first throughout Australia and Oceania, at Murriton Bay in 1850, then in Victoria, New Zealand, South Australia, Western Australia, Fiji, Papua New Guinea and Tasmania. 1927, BNSW acquired the Western Australian Bank. 1931, BNSW acquired the Australian Bank of Commerce, which had branches in both New South Wales and Queensland. 1942, BNSW suspended operations in Papua New Guinea as the Japanese Army captured many of the towns in which it had branches and agencies, and bombed Port Moresby. It resumed operations in 1946. 1968, BNSW joins Data Bank Systems Limited Consortium to provide joint data processing services. 1970, BNSW established a branch on Tarawa in Kiribati, which also took over the Government Savings Bank. Also, the company first became listed on July 18, 1970. 1971, it established a branch in the New Hebrides. The next year HSBC and Commercial Bank of Australia also established branches. 1973, BNSW became the corporate sponsor of the rescue helicopter service started by Surf Life Saving Australia. The service is known today as the Westpac Lifesaver Rescue Helicopter Service. 1974, the Bank of New Zealand, BNSW, Bank of Hawaii, and the Government of Tonga established Bank of Tonga as a joint venture. 1975, BNSW incorporated its local business in Papua New Guinea as Bank of New South Wales, PNG. 1977, BNSW formed Pacific Commercial Bank in Samoa as a joint venture with Bank of Hawaii, buying into Pacific Savings and Loan Company, in which Bank of Hawaii had had an ownership interest since 1971. Westpac has formed 1982, BNSW merged with a Commercial Bank of Australia to form Westpac Banking Corporation. WBC was framed with a mission to become a significant Western Pacific bank from which the Westpac portmanteau is derived. The brand name incorporated the W, which had been the logo of the Bank of New South Wales. 1984, the original agreement between BNSW and the government in the Gilbert and Ellice Islands expired and WBC and the government of Kiribati formed Bank of Kiribati as a 51.49% joint venture. Bank of Kiribati also fulfilled the functions of a reserve or central bank. 1985, WBC replaced Barclays Bank in the National Bank of Tuvalu and Tuvalu, taking 40% of the shares as well as a 10-year management contract. 1988, WBC acquired the European Pacific Banking Corporation in the Cook Islands and HSBC subsidiary, the Solomon Islands Banking Corporation, which HSBC had established as a branch in 1973. WBC also acquired HSBC's operations in Fiji and the New Hebrides, and established a branch in Niue that is the only bank in that country. 1990, Bank of New Zealand sold half its shares in Bank of Tonga to WBC and half to Bank of Hawaii, giving each of them 30%. WBC bought Bank Indoshua's operations in New Caledonia and Tahiti. 1992, WBC recorded a $1.6 billion loss, which at the time, was the largest loss for an Australian corporation. In this environment, the bank dismissed staff and raided the superannuation to sustain its viability. In the process WBC came close to insolvency, and slipped from being Australia's largest to third largest bank. 1995, WBC sold its shares in National Bank of Tuvalu to that country's government, which now wholly owns the bank. 1995, WBC acquired Challenge Bank in Western Australia. 1996, WBC Holdings NZ bought Trust Bank, a chain of regional banks owned by community trusts, for $1.2 billion New Zealand dollars to form NZ's largest bank, Westpac Trust. The bank had promised to keep the funding to community trusts flowing and to keep trust in its name. However, community trust funding has slowed to a trickle, and in 2002 the bank launched a major rebranding which included dropping the trust from its name. The merger of WBC and Trust Bank also saw the closure of many branches around New Zealand. In towns and cities where both WBC and Trust Bank existed, the bank merged redundant branches into a single branch. Also, it closed down many branches in rural areas and outer suburbs. 1996, WBC sold Challenge Bank to the Bank of Melbourne. 1997, WBC acquired Bank of Melbourne in Victoria, paying an estimated price in excess of $1.4 billion Australian dollars. WBC retained the rights to the Bank of Melbourne name and logos, but in 2004 rebadged the branches as Westpac. In 2011, Westpac relaunched the brand. 1998, WBC sold its operations in New Caledonia and Tahiti to Socia Copyright TA Copyright GA Copyright NA Copyright Rail, which merged them with Socia Copyright TA Copyright GA Copyright NA Copyright Rail Kala Copyright Donyanda Bank and Bank de Polina Copyright SAI, respectively. 2001, the government of Kiribati sought to reduce Westpac's share in Bank of Kiribati from 51 to 49%, leading WBC to sell its shares back to the government. Bank of Hawaii sold its interest in Pacific Commercial Bank to Westpac, which held an equal portion. WBC offered Samoan investors, who held the remaining shares, the same price it had paid Bank of Hawaii. WBC now owns 93.5% of Westpac Bank Samoa, and Samoan companies and individuals own 6.5%. In Tonga, Bank of Hawaii sold its shares in Bank of Tonga to Westpac, giving WBC 60% ownership of what is now Westpac Bank of Tonga. 2002, WBC acquired BT Financial Group and Rothschild Australia Asset Management. 2004, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand required WBC to incorporate its NZ branches network. WBC sold its branch in Niue to Bank of South Pacific. 2008, former St. George Bank CEO Gail Kelly appointed Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director. 2008, WBC announced that it intended to merge with the fifth largest Australian bank, St. George Bank, for $19 billion Australian dollars. The holders of about 95% of St. George's shares voted in favour of the merger. 2008, on November 17, the Federal Court of Australia approved the merger of Westpac and St. George. 2008 and 2009, secret funds are secured from the Federal Reserve of $1.09 billion. 2011, during July, St. George branches in the state of Victoria were rebadged as Bank of Melbourne branches. In early February 2012, Westpac announced plans to axe more than 400 domestic jobs and another 150 offshore jobs. This action was a response to much slower growth over the past several years and the desire to rationalize following Westpac's 2008 merger with St. George Bank. February 2013, Westpac selected Oracle's Exadata database machine and Exalogic Elastic Cloud solutions to support the ongoing deployment of Oracle-based master data management applications, with the overall aim to achieve a single view of its customer information. Core business activities. Westpac's core business consists of 9 business units through which it serves around 8.2 million customers. These business areas are Westpac Retail and Business Banking. This includes deposit taking, transaction accounts, credit cards, mortgages, and other lending. Westpac is a major home loan provider and also serves the financial needs of business customers with a turnover of up to $20 million. Investment, superannuation and general and life insurance products are also sold through the branch network. In the past, RBB operated as Consumer Financial Services. The name was changed when all retail products were combined into the one division. Westpac Institutional Bank customers include governments, property, financial institutions, and medium to large corporates. In the Australian market, WIB holds a prominent position in providing banking services amongst the Big Four Australian banks and global investment banks, with an increasing presence in the Asia-Pacific region. Business units within WIB include corporate and institutional banking, global transactional services, capital and loan markets, financial markets, equities, funds management, international operations, WIB finance, WIB risk, and WIB technology. BT Financial Group BT Financial Group, Westpac's wealth management division, includes managed investments, life insurance, superannuation and discount broking products in Australia and New Zealand. BT also offers custody and settlement services to institutional customers and fund managers. Westpac has been granted a MySuper authority, enabling it to continue to receive default superannuation contribution from January 1, 2014. St George Bank Group St George Cooperative Building Society Limited was founded in 1937 as a housing-based financial institution, becoming Australia's largest building society before achieving full banking status in July 1992. Westpac merged with St George on December 1, 2008, but has pledged to keep the branch network for a minimum of 3 years and to maintain a corporate presence in the Sydney suburb of Garra. Bank SA is the largest financial institution in South Australia, and the state's main provider of housing, personal finance and rural banking services. It also provides funds management, life and general insurance, and superannuation and investment services. It was acquired by Advance Bank in 1992, and by St George Bank in 1997. Westpac acquired Bank SA in December 2008 when it merged with St George Bank. Bank SA continues to be a division of St George Bank. The Bank of Melbourne was established in 1989 when the RESI statewide building society was granted a banking licence. In 1997, it was acquired by Westpac. In 2004, the branches were rebadged as Westpac, however, in 2011 Westpac rebadged the St George Bank branches in Victoria as Bank of Melbourne. Westpac acquired RAMS Home Loans in January 2008 and operates the RAMS distribution business and brands as part of the St George Group. Westpac New Zealand In 1861 the Bank of New South Wales opened 7 branches in New Zealand. Some of the old buildings still stand, including one in Owamarua and another in Tokomarua Bay. Today this unit offers a whole range of consumer and corporate services to clients throughout New Zealand. It is the dominant provider of banking services to small to medium business, corporate and institutional organisations, and is the banker of the New Zealand government. Currently Westpac is the second largest bank in New Zealand, after the merger of ANZ and National Bank of New Zealand, with around 1.5 million customers, 3,000 shareholders and 197 branches nationwide. On September 29, 2006 the New Zealand Commerce Commission forced Westpac to pay $5.1 million New Zealand dollars for hidden foreign transaction fees. Most of the fine is reimbursement to affected customers, in the order of 12% of the fees actually charged. All other banks operating in New Zealand have either already been fined or are awaiting a court case. In October 2009 Westpac Banking Corporation was ordered to pay the Inland Revenue Department $961 million New Zealand dollars in avoided taxes. On July 22, 2014, Westpac publicly announced that they would pilot their host card emulation mobile payments technology to customers. Westpac became the first bank in New Zealand to actively bring HCE mobile payments to market and one of only a handful of banks globally to be using the innovative Euro digital wallet Euro unregistered trademark technology. Westpac's 3-month trial, which uses Qatar worldwide HCE technology, enables customers to securely store and access credit and debit card information in a remote and hosted Eurocloud unregistered trademark environment, enabling customers to use their Android smartphones as digital wallets. Soon after, in August 2014, Westpac NZ announced that it would be releasing the world's first augmented bank app, which adds layers of functionality to the digital wallet by enabling users to check account balances, view previous spending behaviors, pay bills and locate their nearest Westpac NZ branch or ATM. The app is also viewable in a 3D format by supported devices. Naming rights: Westpac Stadium in Wellington. Westpac Rescue Helicopters, Westpac Halberg Award. Other business units servicing the group. The four remaining business units are Group Finance, Human Resources, Group Services and Group Risk. These are sometimes collectively referred to as the corporate core. ATM Alliance Westpac is a member of the Global ATM Alliance, a joint venture of several major international banks that allows customers of the banks to use their ATM card or check card at another bank within the Global ATM Alliance with no fees when traveling internationally. Other participating banks are Allied Irish Banks, Barclays, Bank of America, BNP Paribas, AXA Bank, Deutsche Bank, and Scotiabank. Westpac Migrant Banking This unit of both the Australian and New Zealand Bank offers banking facilities to those migrating to either New Zealand or Australia. Bank accounts for migrants can be opened before people arrive in the country using their easy account opening process. Credit cards and mortgages can even be approved before arrival. Westpac Migrant Banking has a representative office in London where accounts can be arranged, although the process can be done remotely from any country. Westpac plans to open a retail branch in London in 2011. Pacific Banking Westpac operates in 7 South Pacific nations. The unit is headquartered in Sydney. The financial services offered include electronic banking, deposit, loan, transaction accounts and international trade facilities to personal and business customers. Westpac Fiji is Westpac's Fijian operation. It is one of the largest banks in the country and has a 40% market share. Banking Alliance for Women Westpac Pacific Banking is a member of the Global Banking Alliance for Women, supporting initiatives in the Pacific to help women prosper and grow. Corporate governance Board of Directors Lindsay McStead, Brian Hartzer, Elizabeth Bryan, Robert Elstone, Peter Hawkins, Peter Marriott, Alison Deans, Ewan Crouch. Executive team Brian Hartzer, Peter King, John Arthur, David McLean, Philip Coffey, Brad Cooper, George Fraziers, Dave Curran, Christine Parker, Alexandra Holcomb, Rob Whitfield, Jason Yetton. Controversy U.S. Federal Reserve borrowings In 2009, a Westpac-owned entity secured $1.09 billion from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Commentary suggests this was an unusual move for the bank, given its relatively minor position in North America. The borrowings by Westpac occurred at the height of the global financial crisis and was part of a Federal Reserve move to stabilize financial markets globally. The public and government attention of the borrowings followed the release of the information by the Federal Reserve in 2011, not Westpac. Funding of coal mining in New Zealand Westpac has recently come under criticism from climate change organisations in New Zealand for its role in funding mining company Bathurst, which has gained resource consent to mine coal on the Denniston Plateau on the west coast of the South Island. Opponents have claimed that the mine will release up to 218 million tons of carbon dioxide, which will worsen the already noticeable effects of anthropogenic climate change, as well as significantly damage an important ecosystem. Westpac have largely ignored these claims, despite over 100 customers leaving the company because of this issue. Corporate responsibility. In 2002, Westpac released a social impact report that outlined the bank's plan to meet international standards in the area of corporate social responsibility. This led to Westpac's assessment as the global sustainability leader for the banking sector in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index from 2004 to 2007. Westpac has been criticized for backing logging operations on the Solomon Islands that destroy virgin rainforests. Because of this engagement, the Australian Greens have called for the bank's awards to be withdrawn from Westpac. See also: Global ATM Alliance, Westpac House, Westpac Lifesaver Rescue Helicopter Service, Westpac Rescue Helicopter, Westpac Stadium. References. Further reading: Naroob, S. and B. T. Whiteside. 1985. Financial Institutions and Markets in Fiji. In M. T. Scully, ed. Financial Institutions and Markets in the Southwest Pacific. London, Macmillan Press. Shergill, A. E. 2005. Foreign Banks in the Pacific, a Note. Journal of Pacific History. External links: Westpac, Westpac New Zealand. The company first became listed on July 18, 1970. 1971, it established a branch in the New Hebrides. The next year HSBC and Commercial Bank of Australia also established branches. 1973, BNSW became the corporate sponsor of the rescue helicopter service started by Surf Life Saving Australia. The service is known today as the Westpac Lifesaver Rescue Helicopter Service. 1974, the Bank of New Zealand, BNSW, Bank of Hawaii, and the Government of Tonga established Bank of Tonga as a joint venture. 1975, BNSW incorporated its local business in Papua New Guinea as Bank of New South Wales, PNG. 1977, BNSW formed Pacific Commercial Bank in Samoa as a joint venture with Bank of Hawaii, buying into Pacific Savings and Loan Company, in which Bank of Hawaii had had an ownership interest since 1971. Westpac has formed 1982, BNSW merged with the Commercial Bank of Australia to form Westpac Banking Corporation. WBC was framed with a mission to become a significant Western Pacific bank from which the Westpac portmanteau in 31, BNSW acquired the Australian Bank of Commerce, which had branches in both New South Wales and Queensland. 1942, BNSW suspended operations in Papua New Guinea as the Japanese Army captured many of the towns in which it had branches and agencies, and bombed Port Moresby. It resumed operations in 1946. 1968, BNSW joins Data Bank Systems Limited Consortium to provide joint data processing services. 1970, BNSW established a branch on Tarawa in Kiribati, which also took over the Government Savings Bank. Westpac is an Australian bank and financial services provider headquartered in Westpac Place, Sydney. It is one of Australia's Big Four banks and is the second largest bank in New Zealand. In November 2011, Westpac had 12.2 million customers, and Australia's largest branch network with almost 1,200 branches and a network with more than 2,900 ATMs. The bank is Australia's second largest bank by assets. On January 29, 2015, Bank of South Pacific announced that it had entered into an agreement to acquire Westpac's banking operations in Samoa, Cook Islands, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu and Tonga for $125 million Australian dollars. History. Established in Sydney in 1817, the Bank of New South Wales was the first bank in Australia with Edward Smith Hall as its first cashier and secretary. During the 19th and early 20th century, the bank opened branches first throughout Australia and Oceania, at Moreton Bay in 1850, then in Victoria, New Zealand, South Australia, Western Australia, Fiji, Papua New Guinea and Tasmania. 1927, BNSW acquired the Western Australian Bank. 19